Hey guys, it's me, Victoria. A lot of you guys are really mean to me. I understand why you are, mostly because I'm annoying and selfish and conceited. And anyone who sees this video, please comment, like anyone who knows me. I'm really sorry. I'm trying my best to be better. So if you guys like it, comment and subscribe. Peace.